Have you ever cried silently, without anyone noticing? Have you ever felt your throat tighten, your eyes welling up, but still held it all back because you thought no one would understand? Many people live like this, carrying invisible pains, tears that don't fall to the ground, emotions that remain trapped in their body and soul. And the hardest part isn't just the sadness, it's the feeling of being alone in it. Have you ever experienced this? Perhaps you smile on the outside, fulfill your responsibilities, move on, but inside there's a weight that no one sees, an emotional exhaustion, a pain that has no name, a cry that was never allowed. What few people talk about is that these hidden tears say a lot about our emotional health, our well-being, and even our spiritual strength. And more, they are not ignored, not by the body, not by God. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. There's a profound meaning in healing tears, even those know. 1. Witnesses. Repressed emotions leave marks, but they can also transform into something greater. Throughout this video, we'll look at this sadness with new eyes, and perhaps you'll begin to understand why no tear is in vain, even when the world doesn't see. And perhaps as you listen to this, some part of your own story is resurfacing. A memory, an old pain, a moment when you needed to be strong, when in reality, you just wanted to cry. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below about what has touched you the most so far, or even a word that represents how you feel right now. Sometimes writing is already a first step towards healing, and someone on the other side of the screen might recognize themselves in your story. If this video is speaking to you, liking it now is a simple way of saying, "This matters." This is how this message reaches more people who also carry silent tears and feel alone. And if you feel this kind of conversation is needed, subscribe to the channel, not as a number, but as someone who chooses to walk alongside, reflect, take care of emotional health, and transform pain into spiritual strength. Your participation here is what makes this space exist, grow, and continue bringing words of comfort to those who need it. And from here we'll go deeper, because understanding the value of unseen tears can completely change how you see your own story. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because there's a hidden truth about tears that almost no one talks about. Not every tear falls to the ground. Some remain trapped in the soul, others hide in the body, and many live in silence, where no one applauds, no one consoles, no one notices. These are tears that don't run down the face, but weigh on the chest, influence decisions, shape behaviors, and affect our mentality in subtle yet profound ways. These invisible tears are part of the human journey. They arise when we swallow words, when we postpone grief, when we feign strength. For survival. The world usually only sees results, performance, appearances, but what happens behind the scenes of the heart rarely receives attention. And it is precisely there that the real impact of unexpressed emotions resides. The body registers, the mind carries, and the soul feels. There is something powerful in understanding that God sees what the world ignores. The tears you held back in the bathroom, the pain you silenced so as not to worry anyone, the emotional burden you chose to carry alone, none of this goes unnoticed. These tears, even invisible, speak. They reveal crossed boundaries, unhealed wounds, unmet needs. And when they are acknowledged, something begins to transform within. Understanding the meaning of these tears changes how we see our own history. It's not about victimhood, but about awareness, about realizing that repressed emotions don't disappear, they just change location, and when they gain space to exist, they cease to be a prison and become a path. A path of inner revelations, of maturation, of reconnection with what is essential. Perhaps you are realizing now that some of your tears never fell. They were just waiting to be seen. And it is from this recognition that something begins to move, preparing the ground for a deeper transformation that still needs to be understood. Comment below. That makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when we look at crying through the lens of faith, much that seemed like weakness begins to take on a different meaning. Since ancient times, crying has never been treated as a mistake or a sign of spiritual defeat. On the contrary, There is a powerful, almost hidden truth that God not only sees the tears, He collects them. This completely changes the mindset with which we have been taught to deal with pain. In spirituality, crying is a language. It's communication when words fail. It's the soul speaking on a level that reason cannot reach. Many of the greatest transformations recorded in faith began in moments of brokenness, in tears shed away from human eyes behind the scenes of life. And this reveals something important. Spiritual strength is not the absence of tears, it's honesty in the face of them. There's a misconception that those who have faith can't fall, can't be sad, can't allow themselves to feel, but this is a hidden truth that needs to be dispelled. Crying doesn't negate faith. It deepens it. It aligns it. It reveals limits and also internal decisions that need to be reviewed. Instead of pushing away, it brings closer. Instead of weakening, it prepares the ground for real change. When faith recognizes tears as part of the journey, something rearranges itself within. Pain ceases to be an enemy and becomes a messenger. Tears become seeds of revelation, of maturation, of reconnection with what is essential. And perhaps the greatest impact of all this is realizing that you never cried alone. Even when no one saw, even when you thought you needed to be strong all the time, each tear had value, meaning, and purpose. This understanding doesn't end the pain, but it opens space for something new. A silent transformation begins when we stop fighting what we feel and start listening to what those tears are trying to say. And it is precisely there that the journey begins to take a new direction. Comment below, I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because there's a crucial point in this journey that many people ignore. The body always hears what the soul tries to silence. Repressed emotions don't disappear with time, they simply change location. What isn't cried, spoken, or acknowledged ends up being stored as tension, constant fatigue, unexplained pain, a tightness in the chest that arises out of nowhere. And this isn't weakness, it's internal communication. The body acts as a silent guardian of our hidden truths. It records every decision to swallow tears, every moment you chose to move forward without allowing yourself to feel. Behind the scenes of daily life, these accumulated emotions impact your mindset, mood, energy, and even how you relate to the world. Sometimes, physical pain doesn't begin in the muscle, but in a sadness that never found space to exist. This connection between emotions and the body reveals something profound about our inner transformation. When the soul finds no language, the body creates signals. Extreme fatigue can be an excess of emotional resistance. Tension in the shoulders can be the burden of responsibilities that have never been shared. Shortness of breath can be fear held for too long. And realizing this is not a reason for guilt, but for awareness. It's an invitation to look at yourself with more honesty and less judgment. There is a liberating impact when we understand that taking care of emotional health is not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's not about dramatizing pain, but about recognizing that the body needs attention when the soul has been ignored for too long. This recognition changes decisions, adjusts priorities, and opens space for important revelations about who you are and what needs healing. When you begin to listen to these signs, something subtle happens inside. Pain ceases to be an enemy and becomes a guide, and this listening prepares the ground to understand how these silent tears not only reveal wounds, but also point to paths of restoration that still need to be explored. Comment below. That makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because when we look at it through the lens of science, something interesting happens. What faith has always intuited begins to be confirmed with data, studies, and real observations. Crying also heals, not as a dramatic act, but as a natural self-regulating mechanism of the body. Crying releases accumulated tension, helps regulate intense emotions, and acts directly on the nervous system, signaling that it is safe to release what was being held back. When a person cries, the body enters a process of internal reorganization. Stress-related hormones decrease, breathing changes, and muscles relax. It's as if the body understands that this emotional release is part of the journey towards balance. There's a hidden truth here. Suppressing tears requires more energy than allowing them to happen, and this energy spent on resistance ends up impacting decisions, mood, mental clarity, and even how we see life. This reveals something powerful about transformation. Faith and science do not contradict each other. They meet precisely at this point. What spirituality calls relief of the soul, science describes as emotional regulation. What faith recognizes as brokenness, biology understands as a healthy response to excessive internal pressure. They are different languages pointing in the same direction. Crying is not a flaw, it is a function. Behind the scenes, each tear plays a silent role. It doesn't erase the pain, but it reduces its impact on the emotional system. It doesn't solve everything, but it creates space for more conscious choices, for a less hardened mindset, for a more honest journey with oneself. When we understand this, crying ceases to be seen as something to avoid and begins to be recognized as part of the healing process. And perhaps the most surprising thing is realizing that allowing ourselves to cry doesn't weaken us, but prepares us. It prepares the inner ground for new revelations, for more aligned decisions, for a deeper understanding of what needs to be cared for. This encounter between faith and science opens an important door because it shows that there is a safe path between feeling and moving forward. And this path still holds layers that deserve to be explored more carefully. Comment below. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because there's a silent conditioning that has shaped how we deal with crying from a very young age. At some point in our journey, many of us have heard phrases like "be strong, don't cry, that's weakness." Sometimes uttered with good intentions, these words have become internal decisions. We've decided to swallow our tears, harden our posture, move forward without looking back. And without realizing it, this has adjusted our mindset to survive, not to feel. Behind the scenes of this choice, something takes hold. Crying begins to be seen as a failure, feelings become a threat, vulnerability is avoided at all costs. This conditioning creates emotional blocks because it teaches the body and soul to deny important signals. What is not expressed becomes tension, what is not acknowledged becomes a burden. And the impact of this spreads in relationships, in decisions, in how we face challenges, and even in how we connect spiritually. There's a hidden truth here. When we learn to swallow our tears, we also learn to silence essential parts of who we are. Spirituality suffers because the heart closes. Transformation slows down because pain finds no outlet. The journey becomes burdensome because everything needs to be resolved alone. It's not a lack of faith. Often, it's a lack of permission to be human before God and oneself. This pattern creates a false sense of strength, outwardly control, inwardly exhaustion. And the longer this repeats, the harder it becomes to recognize what one truly feels. The swallowed tears don't disappear, they accumulate and influence choices, harden sensitivity, and limit important revelations. The soul craves space, but the mind, trained to resist, insists on remaining silent. When this awareness begins to emerge, something shifts. Questioning this conditioning is not losing strength, it's recovering truth. It's understanding that feeling doesn't weaken faith, it prepares the ground for a more honest transformation. And this perception opens an important crack, because it reveals that perhaps the problem isn't crying itself, but everything that has been learned about it. And it is from this point that new layers begin to reveal themselves. Comment below. That makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there comes a point in the journey when words simply aren't enough. The pain is too great, too confusing, too silent, and it is precisely there that often tears become prayers. Not that organized prayer, full of beautiful phrases, but the most honest of all. The one that is born when the mouth cannot speak what the heart is feeling. There's a hidden truth in this that few people realize. Not all prayer is spoken. Some are felt, some flow from the eyes, others are caught in the breath, others fall silently while life continues to unfold outside. In the backstage of faith, Tears have always been an understood language. They carry intention, surrender, yielding. It's the soul saying, "I can't do it alone anymore," even when the mind still tries to maintain control. When tears turn into prayer, something profound happens internally. Resistance falls away. Hardened mindsets begin to give way. It's not weakness, it's alignment. It's the point where pain stops fighting against God and begins to present itself before Him. And this has an enormous impact because it changes the quality of the spiritual relationship. It's no longer performance, it's truth. It's no longer appearance, it's essence. Much transformation begins in that quiet place. Important. Decisions mature there. Inner revelations emerge when there is no longer the energy to feign strength. The tear that falls without explanation carries a surrender that no words could express. And perhaps that is why this moment is so powerful. It doesn't depend on technique, it depends on sincerity. There is something liberating in understanding that God doesn't expect perfect speeches, but willing hearts. The tear prayer doesn't ask permission, it simply happens. And when that happens, the weight begins to rearrange itself from within. Not because everything is resolved, but because the soul finally finds a safe place to exist as it is. This understanding changes how you view your own moments of crying. Perhaps they weren't a sign of failure, but of connection. Perhaps without realizing it, you prayed more deeply when you couldn't say anything. And recognizing this opens up space to continue this journey with more honesty. Because there are still layers to this experience that need to be understood calmly and deeply. Comment below, I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because this is where many things truly begin to change. There is a silent turning point where sadness ceases to be merely pain and becomes the raw material of spiritual strength. Not because pain is good, but because it carries information. It shows what matters, what has been lost, what needs to be cared for. When embraced, sadness doesn't paralyze, it guides. Think of pain as a low flame. If you touch it carelessly, it burns. But if you learn to use it, it warms, transforms, purifies. Behind the scenes of life, many of the most mature decisions were born in periods of deep sadness. Not impulsive decisions, but conscious choices, aligned with a more truthful mindset. Sadness, when properly listened to, teaches boundaries, adjusts priorities, and refines spiritual sensitivity. Transformation doesn't happen when everything is comfortable. It happens when we are forced to look inward. Pain in this sense acts as a mirror. It reveals weaknesses but also reveals values. It shows where the soul is asking for change. Like a seed buried in dark earth, sadness seems like the end, but it is precisely there that something new begins to form. Far from applause, far from haste, far from external expectations. When this pain finds space in faith, something powerful happens. Sadness ceases to be dead weight and becomes directed strength. Not a noisy strength, but a silent firmness. The kind that sustains, that matures, that takes root. It is in this process that the spiritual journey gains depth, because it is no longer about avoiding suffering, but about allowing it to produce revelations. This shift in perspective alters the impact of pain on the body, mind, and daily decisions. Sadness begins to be understood, not fought against. And when this happens, the energy previously spent on resistance begins to be used for internal reconstruction. It's a slow but real process, and the more this spiritual strength develops, the more prepared you become to understand what still needs to be transformed within yourself. Comment below. That makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because there comes a point in the journey when it's no longer possible to only look outward. Life may continue, responsibilities remain, decisions need to be made. But there's a silent inward call. An invitation to inner healing that doesn't shout, doesn't pressure, it simply waits. It waits for you to stop for a moment and honestly ask yourself, what have I been holding on to for too long? What burden have I normalized? What tears have I never let fall? These questions aren't meant to accuse, but to reveal. Many pains no longer hurt because they've been resolved, but because they've been numbed. Behind the scenes of daily life, we learn to function even when hurt, to smile even when tired, to keep going. even with a heavy heart. And this shapes a survival mentality, not a healing one. But what isn't embraced internally continues to influence choices, relationships, and how you see yourself. Inner healing begins when you allow yourself to feel without judgment. When you allow yourself to acknowledge that something hurt, that something is stuck, that something still needs attention. It's not weakness to revisit these emotions. It's spiritual maturity. There's a hidden truth here. Ignoring pain doesn't speed up the journey. It only makes it heavier. Looking inward, however uncomfortable it may seem, creates space for real transformation. This process requires silence. Not the silence that represses, but the silence that listens. It is in this space that subtle revelations begin to emerge. You begin to understand why certain reactions repeat themselves, why some decisions seem so difficult, why the body sometimes responds before the mind. Healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens in layers as you recognize what needs to be cared for. Perhaps some tears never fell because there wasn't a safe place for them. Perhaps you were strong when you needed to be comforted. Acknowledging this doesn't change the past, but it changes its impact on the present. And when this invitation to healing is accepted, something begins to reorganize itself from within, preparing the heart to understand even deeper aspects of this experience that continue to demand space. Comment below. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because when all of this comes together, faith, body, emotions, and silence, a truth begins to emerge more clearly. No tear is wasted. Not those that fell on the pillow, nor those you quickly wiped away so no one would see, nor those that remained trapped inside. Those that don't fall to the ground aren't lost in the sky. They carry meaning, history, and purpose, even when you can't yet see it. There is hope precisely there. Not a naive hope, but a conscious hope, built from the understanding that each tear was part of your journey. Behind the scenes of life, they shaped your sensitivity, adjusted your mindset, protected parts of you that still needed to mature. What seemed like mere pain was silently preparing space for deeper revelations about who you are and what truly matters. When you understand this, something changes in the way you look at the past. Sadness ceases to be a mistake and becomes a chapter. Tears stop being a sign of weakness and become marks of humanity. They show that you felt, that you cared, that you were present in your own story. And this has a powerful impact because it gives new meaning to experiences that previously only hurt. Hope is born when you realize that even the tears had a purpose, that even the silence was heard, that even the burden played a role in your transformation. This awareness doesn't erase scars, but it gives them meaning. And meaning heals in a way that time alone cannot. There is something profoundly restorative in knowing that nothing was in vain, not even what you thought you needed to hide. Perhaps this is one of the most beautiful truths of this journey. You never cried alone. Every tear was seen, embraced, and cherished. And carrying that in your heart changes how you move forward, because hope ceases to be something distant and begins to dwell exactly where pain once was. Comment below. That makes sense to me. If you've made it this far, it's because something along the way resonated with you on a deeper level. Perhaps a phrase, perhaps a silence, perhaps a memory that came unannounced. And if this content resonated with you, subscribing to the channel is a simple way to continue this journey with me. The idea here is exactly that, to create a safe space to reflect, understand emotions, strengthen spirituality, and care for that which almost no one sees, but everyone feels. If you want, leave a comment saying, "This message was for me," or "I'm with you until the end," just so I know you were really here from beginning to end. This creates connection, creates community, and helps this content reach other people who also need these words. And if at any point you felt you weren't alone while watching, leaving a like is just a way to record this silent exchange that happened here. And before you go, there's a video here that complements everything we've talked about today. Click and continue with me there. The journey doesn't end here, it just goes a little deeper.